Thank you very much. Welcome to the show. That's right. Great to be back in Hornet Field. 8-0. 6th inning. Good product. Hey, welcome to the show. You know, we're back at Hornet Field for another great game against us Hornets versus the Moody Trojans. But tonight, it's a very special episode. It's Throwback Thursday here at Give Me a Break. Why? I haven't had time to just do a Throwback Thursday story because of all the issues I've been seeing all over the news. So tonight I figured, tonight's the night. So normally we do COVID, so we're ditching COVID and dealing with every single issue for this Throwback Thursday. I mean, by that I mean we're looking back at all of our great topics, issues that we've been dealing with the past 5 years, and some stories I might tell while doing the show before doing the show. Now, a lot of people may ask, what's this show about? This show is basically about dealing with issues that you hate to talk about, but you gotta get it off your chest anyway. It's also about it's about holding accountability and responsibility for your actions. So let this be a lesson to you. Actions have consequences. It's time to get the comedy series to start our Throwback Thursday. You know, in the second episode, I felt we did our first education show. The whole reason why it is because it's a mess. Because of all the tax dollars we spent, all the programs we had, this and that and the other. I guess every school district is under the same boat here. That brings me to one of the first stories I've ever done. Talking about running in the hallways. If you've seen people running in the hallways, you might relate to what I'm talking about. They're late to class, you run in the hallways, and then people trip, fall, safety issue, break your back, boom, you're in a hospital. But I saw there were a few videos. There was just one video that I liked. They created a skit about no running in the halls, and then all of a sudden, this started happening. And if I had a TV out here, or if I had some editing, I would show it to you I would describe it to you while I'm talking. But I don't have it with me right now. But we'll just sell this as it is. So let me describe it to you. Well, a few boys came out of the boys' bathroom, while one guy in a polo shirt came out. People were like, then all of a sudden, this guy comes out of the girl's bathroom. He's like, he must have a vagina. Get him! And get him! And all of a sudden, you start running, and then all of a sudden you hear a screech, squeak, 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 squeak. And then all of a sudden, he quickly opens up the trash can lid, and then all of a sudden replaces it, and then all of a sudden, there you go, boom, everyone goes falling down, and this guy says, "You must be the fastest kid alive. He's the fastest kid alive." And then all of a sudden, later in the video, this guy's yelling, "No running in the hall!" And all of a sudden, the running continues in the cafeteria, continues outside. One other person who sees what's going on, doesn't even know what's going on, she's like, "Get away!" And then all of a sudden, he looks to the trash can, he's like falling like, and he goes like, "I don't have a vagina." He does. And then people look at him like, "Are you kidding me?" And people like, "Get him!" People like, "Get him!" That's how it is. At the end of the video, it's like, running in the halls. Another video I saw, this kid was like running, like jumping, and all of a sudden it goes. And all of a sudden, he hits the zigzag wall. Boom! I guess the main story here is do not run in the hallways. No running in the halls. Ain't good for you. Now what about texting in class? I mean, back in the day, you texting in class, you're you would get paid, you would have to pay $15. That's just not the case with this report, this story right here. I've seen teachers on YouTube breaking their students' bones all of a sudden because they don't want to pay attention here. Maybe an April Fool's joke, but this is one channel had a video about Mr. Green breaking the student's cell phone. He's like, who are you texting? Nobody, your students was turning it off. And he goes, take your phone back, Skylar. And then all of a sudden, his next one's, you got a cell phone? Are you recording this? Are you recording this? And then he slaps it out of the guy's hand. How about this other one? Get text to class, with your phone. And all of a sudden, hey, where you going? Hey, get back here. Like that. All right, boys, get him. Next day, he texts to class, and then I guess he's allowed to text to class now. Okay. When we come back, our Throwback Thursday continues with some more stories. Bullying and vandalism. And later on, prom stories. If you watched our prom dress controversy last season, you may know what I'm talking about. Don't go away. Welcome back. One of my main goals of this show is to sweep education, is to clean education up and get it back to the way it was. One of the main things I talk about is bullying. Bullying is such a mess, no one cares to clean it up. I'm going to share with you a story I saw in 2020 back in 1997. It's called Dangerous Hobbies. If you want to see that, we'll have the link in the description below. In this story, this is the story about two girls who were being picked on, and a vice principal who decided to send her home for the day. Keep her home because they fear for her safety. So, who could forget junior high? That time that high school could be a lot of other things. And then when the homecoming game started, she was there, and all of a sudden, you better watch your back. And all of a sudden, they started picking on her, this and that and the other, started teasing her. And then another student jumped in and said, leave her alone. And then she got picked on. They sued the school district and the principals for violating civil rights. They didn't want to talk to 2020, but the superintendent did. He said that's a false accusation. That's just not the case here. I mean, their school board's plan was to have them assist aides with walkie-talkies. I'm looking at that going, how's that going to solve anything? You get picked on, you get aides with walkie-talkies? That's just outrageous. Very outrageous. And after that, she dropped out of school, but then she went to private school, where you have to pay for it. In the end, girls say, the girls that were picking on the three girls that were picking on the girls, being incidents. I want to also talk to you about another bullying story I talked about. This was from years ago. It's called Bullying Worth Killing. When I first saw this, I was like, I don't want to be deceived for this. The whole reason why was basically because of what was going on. And I saw the real action, text messages, Facebook messages saying, calling people the S word, the B word, this and that and the other, people teasing, being picked on. It's like nobody cares about someone's safety. Am I right? Of course. Exactly. It's one of the whole reasons why I created this show, because to deal with issues like bullying. And when I deal with issues like this, it's like, who do you trust here? Do you trust the kids? I mean, who do you even trust? Which brings us to our next story. Now, you may remember a week or a month ago, I told you about a story about a father and a mother. A father who lost her 5-year-old daughter, lost her kids not more than 3 times. The whole reason why is because of the bus issue. A viral video surfaced, and I didn't even watch it. And years later, I'm still looking at that thinking, what happened? So I watched the story, and during that, and something that Adam Murphy said. An officer told him they could not be allowed on campus, and the other person says that's not true. They're allowed to come back on campus. And so, they're allowed back on campus, and they'll address it at the next board meeting. Now, after I saw that video, I was stunned and outraged as a father that something like this would happen. And I believe that father's statement. Until my child makes it back down, you're responsible. And it's like, no, we're not responsible. You're responsible. That's how it is. You're responsible. I mean, if you're a school, if you have students in your school, you are responsible. Transportation is responsible for all their children who ride the bus, especially high schoolers. Now, this brings us to our school bus segment I talked about. All the videos explain that kids acting up on the bus. I'm going to show you about two people. One person started cussing up a storm, saying, "Blank you, you're a blank." And he's like, "Grow up, Wanda." And then towards the end, this guy comes up saying, "What's going on? Why are you guys waiting on the bus? Why are you guys waiting?" And all of a sudden, you gotta call 911. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if it was the parent or something else. Another incident. These kids, the bus had a radio, and they were singing along on the radio. And the bus driver was like, "Stop!" So she didn't follow through. It never happened. So she says, "Stop!" again, and then all of a sudden she turns off the radio and is like, "Come on!" And then this one guy decided to just play the music on the phone and started singing along. La da 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 da. And the bus driver got mad and said, "Why don't you turn off your phone?" And all of a sudden, "Don't ride my bus tomorrow." And all of a sudden, they blame Tyler, and one person's like, "It's not Nick." It's like, it's not Nick's fault. And then a school security guard comes in. He's like, "I'm the only one talking right now." And he yells, "Get off the bus." And then he's like, "Blank this school, blank your job, blank your job, blank everybody. I'm out." And then, one thing I never heard before. Riding the bus is a privilege, not a right. And when I heard that, I took his word for it. I took it to mean that every time you ride the bus, you get to earn that right. You gotta behave on the bus. Okay. Okay, Prom's just around the corner in just a few weeks. And with Prom and with people buying expensive dresses for that great night out, one issue is still going on. Well, guess what? When we come back, I'm going to throw back to last season where I talked about prom dress controversy. You may be surprised by what I talked about from one school district. Don't go away. I want to bring up today now some stories that we've been focusing on since the show. A few days ago, we focused on Jonathan Martinez Garcia, who attempted murdered her teacher. Actually, she strangled her with a cord. Now, just yesterday, several teachers were outside the administration building protesting, and students voiced their concerns. They will voice their concerns in the next board meeting, which is April 18th, and we'll invite the rest. Also, months ago, we focused in on the school shooting in Oxford, Michigan that happened on November 30th, with school threats along with it. The parents are requesting the judge that the bond be lowered from $500,000 to just $100,000 because they claim that they're not bad parents. Their next court proceeding is still in April this month, and we'll provide you with the very latest. Give Me a Break continues in just a moment. Our next story is all about the prom dress controversy. Last season, we brought you a prom dress controversy video, two-parter, that you may not want to, that no one else wanted to miss. We focused in on one school that basically had a strict dress code policy. No spaghetti straps, no see-through dresses, none of that. When they spent a lot of their hard-earned money on this, It also focused in on people that also focused in on a superintendent, which says prom is a school sanctioned event. It is not this and that and the other. And when the media was onto this, emails, pictures were being sent saying this and that and the other. And during that time, they weren't even allowed to film in there because of what went on. It's basically because of what is going on here. Now, the fact of the matter is, I talked about this. I've talked about dress code for over the years. It doesn't matter whether you think it's sexist. And basically the whole reason why people think it's sexist is because it discriminates against girls. Hey, I agree. But I have to side with the school. If you can't wear crop tops, you can't wear crop tops. If you can't wear this, you can't wear that. That's the whole dress code theory here. Y'all may agree or disagree with me, but it's the truth, I tell you. And I lead people to the truth. Now, the politics around the corner, what's going to happen? Is there going to be any more dress code violations? We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But what we do know is that a lot of people are going to be buying $500, $600 worth of dresses and having spares. So after that controversy, I decided to tell you some do's and don'ts of what not to wear. Like, don't wear flip-flops, don't wear spaghetti straps, don't act all country, don't do this, don't do that. Eventually it paid off. I basically went out on a fruit here. So with a lot of issues going on, our Throwback Thursday story isn't over. There's more Throwback Thursday when we return, especially the case of destroying someone else's property. Tonight we're throwing back the Thursday clock with some of our older videos from the past episodes of this season, or sometimes with the other seasons that we've done. And one of the things I focused on was vandalism. I hate vandalism. I focused on a lot of articles that say damage to the schools, how much it would cost, spraying graffiti, all that stuff. Well, basically, I'm still continuing this story, still looking into this story. I've had Google alerts on about vandalism in our schools, and I haven't even done one in a while, so we'll have that for you on Friday. And speaking of destroying things, it's like, do you remember yesterday? Do you remember on Tuesday when we were here, right, focusing on Family Feud? I mean, I want to apologize if I said offensive things to those questions. The only reason I talked about it was basically because I didn't want kids getting involved in this, because they can learn something like this. I mean, yeah, let's do the funny moments of Family Feud, but let's leave out the explicit parts. We don't want to hear people say that kind of stuff and learn that in school. I mean, I'm not offending Steve Harvey. I'm just saying. We don't need to be hearing this kind of stuff. Going back now to when we first did our fight story. Now, all these fights, the only reason I did all these fight stories is basically because to compare them to Jerry Springer. Now, after that, basically all that happened was I started comparing all these fights to Jerry Springer, from hockey to baseball, basketball, football, volleyball. There's been a fight in softball. I focused in on one where the coach slaps the girl and she slaps back. That wasn't a proper handshake, but at least it got the job done. Now, when it comes to schools, I focus on truancy. The whole reason that is because I tell people to not skip school. The important thing is we want to get sending messages out there. You want to get those kids educated. I tell people all the time. You want to get those kids educated so they don't fall through the cracks and get in trouble with the law. That's how it is. But at that time, parents were arrested. And lots of questions arose, like, should parents be arrested if your child plays hooky? Well, I decided to answer that question from family psychologists. Because as you know, there is a big difference between being responsible, putting somebody in jail, and making truancy criminal. But the majority of kids, like I said before, the majority of kids that skip school are being bullied, and they're staying away from school because they don't want to deal with it. And at that time, I focused more on truancy. And when the pandemic hit, it was on the rise. And at that time, lots of other people probably wouldn't even care. Final Throwback Thursday story and our countdown when we come back. Final story for tonight, my first outdoor show. Doing the show outdoors. This was when 2020 hit, during the pandemic. They decided to have graduation at the Hornet Stadium, and I was the first to do an outdoor show. All basically because I wanted to do something like no other people would do. Do a good show from graduation. And at that time, I held it off for a year because of the concerns, like who do I want to put on YouTube, this and that, the other, and then all of a sudden, I don't want to put them on their spot. But this changed, and I'm still reporting you from outdoors, and especially at the studio. I also want to throw back to the big freeze. I couldn't even do the show. I had to do it very quietly because I didn't want no one else to know. So I had my laptop, and then all of a sudden, bam, that happened. All right. That's Throwback Thursday for you. We'll be back. We'll have another Throwback Thursday story for you next week. But all month long, we're celebrating our 5-year anniversary. Give me a break by looking back at some favorite stories and topics throughout the years. So here's another look at two of the countdown. First, what I talked about, I focused in on the Schofield investigation, talking about the Schofield family after their appearance with Dr. Phil, a 5 to 6-parter with help from resources and Kiwi Farms. That's an investigation I've never missed, and I'm still investigating this to this day. Another story is when I focused on was another thing I focused on was when I talked about the gold medal ceremony at the Army. That was very painful for me. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a painful ceremony to where they would stick the medal in here, and then they would like press it, bite on it, and then all of a sudden you would come out pouring blood. That was outrageous. And that's something I will never forget throughout these 5 years.
Did you do the TKO?
So that's number 6. Another one in the countdown, number 7, was when I started talking about homework. I was afraid I was going to throw teachers under the bus. Which brought me to this one person who just slandered onto the whole board, saying like, okay, do this 5 here and then do this 5 at home, and then Nancy Barrett of the credit union thing started blasting him on him because of the test score, because of what happened. He's like, call for investigation of this guy right here, and then all of a sudden, bam, we don't know what else happened. I also talked about the 7 reasons why homework sucks and why homework should be banned. When all teachers are asking for is like 10, 15 minutes to just sit down and get it done. That's how it is. I did homework. You guys know damn well when I do the show, I do my homework. I calculate the precise time. It's number 7, number 8. So that's it for the countdown. Tune in tomorrow for another outrageous Give Me a Break Friday, and the next 2 numbers at our 5-year countdown. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Thursday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Friday. And again, tune in tomorrow for another outrageous Give Me a Break Friday and the next numbers at our 5-year countdown. Until next time, America.